Well, this is what we are painting today. Um, yeah, so I'll wait for a second, um, if you'd like to take a photo, and then we'll get started. Yeah. Um, yeah, so I'll just wait for a little bit longer and then we will get going. So this is what we're painting. Um, yeah. All right. I'm going to get started then. I might be able to leave it up there. Oh, no, not really. Okay. Um, so today we're going to do a little bit of a different process. I should keep this in frame for right now. Um, so rather than focusing on the watercolor necessarily, we're going to be more focusing on the pencil that we do before the watercolor. So this is my favorite way of doing watercolor, where you kind of treat it like making your own coloring book. Um, so you use pencil mostly, and then you color it in however you would like, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Um, so we're gonna spend quite a bit of time with a pencil, and then yeah, we're gonna color it in. So we will get started. All right. Um, so we are going to be starting with pencil, like I said, and I'm going to be starting with putting in this bottom like sandy part here. I'm going to move that way and we'll get started. Yeah. So first, when we're doing this, you want to start with very lighter, like a lot of some lighter lines, and we'll go over everything um with a little bit of darker colors later. You want to kind of keep um this part very like flat as it's like ground. So you want to have it looking a little bit more in perspective, which means it'll be a little bit more squished, a little bit flatter. Um, yeah, so we're starting out with the like kind of floor here, and we're leaving a little bit of um like a canyon in the ground here. So this is what we're doing here, where you can see there's um like space. Yeah. Um, Catherine, here is what we're painting. Um, so we're doing mostly pencil to start off here. And yeah. So for this cavern, we want to add in some lines at the edges here so it looks a little bit more like cliffs, and then adding in some texture lines. So because we're relying a lot on pencil today, adding in texture like this will help. And yeah, so this is our kind of sea floor here. This is our like first step, our base. And I'll just wait for a minute before we continue. So next up, we're going to be putting in our rocks here. So adding in kind of roundish shapes. Um, kind of keeping them more flat on the bottom so it looks like they're on our flat ground here. And just adding in some varying types and sizes of some rocks. So you can add however many you'd like or however little you'd like, but yeah. Um, and we're going to add them in on this other side here as well. So how has everyone's weeks been? Um, this week I actually dyed my hair. Um, but that was really the only interesting thing I've done. Um, yeah, I work as an assistant to a company manager, so I'm fairly busy throughout the week, which I always love this class because it gives me time to do art. So, yeah. Um, so in a sec, I'm gonna show you guys how to do some of the coral that I have in here. Um, but these are kind of the base of everything is the ground and the rocks because we're kind of setting up um, our landscape here. So we're going to start off on this side again here, um, adding in an anemone here. So I kind of start with like a rounded area and then you kind of want to only draw in the closest, um, what are they, like tentacles to you? So adding in some squiggles that are kind of like rounded at the end and adding in a bunch of them here. And then adding in some ones in the back that are just bumps at the top, like that. And to this round part, I'm going to add in some stripes here, just to add, like I said with the ground, we want to add in a lot of texture with pencil as we are relying mostly on the pencil for this painting today. So we are going to be adding in this part here next, and it's fairly simple, but I think it looks really cool. So you're gonna start actually with drawing in a squiggly line that overlaps on itself quite a bit, like that. And Adding in a second one here as well. Like so. And then from the ends, you're going to draw lines down, but also from the very like farthest out part of the loops that we made. So adding in the lines like that on every single one, just like that. And you're going to do this for the shorter line here as well. And for the bottom of this, where it connects to the ground, you can kind of add in some squiggly lines to kind of show the sand that's around it. And maybe make that rock a little bigger. So the way I add in texture to this is following here, following the top line and breaking my pencil, following the top line's shape and just continuing that all the way down. So just like that. And even doing it for the small pieces here, just following that top line and going all the way down to the base of it. Just like that. So next, we'll be adding in some seaweed, which is fairly simple, taking a line, a very squiggly line, down from whatever height you'd like it to be, and then going around the outside of it with some more squiggly lines. Like that. And doing that on both sides. So I'm adding in a couple more here. So there we've got some seaweed or kelp. Um, yeah, it's yeah. And we're gonna be adding these kind of all over the place so we can put them in now. So adding in some behind this rock here. Like that, or adding them on this side here. And you can do what I'm doing here and starting with placing all the lines in and then going back and putting in the rest of it. Like that. Um, Hello to whoever joined. This is what we were painting today, and we are still going with the pencil for a little while. All right. So the next step here is this clam, and for this, I'm starting off with an oval and then a squiggly line through the middle of it here. And then adding in another squiggly line underneath and connecting them to make the like mouth of the clam. The next part is adding in some lines going from the top middle down to the squiggles of the mouth here. And doing that on the bottom as well. Here is what we are painting to whoever joined. We're working through the pencil as that's the main focus of the painting today.
Let me take a picture first. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll leave it up for a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So the next step for our clam here is just adding, again, a little bit of texture. And I just like to add in some squiggly lines going kind of very similar to the mouth, just a little bit higher up and lower down on this, like that. Um, yeah. So the next part we're adding in, the next coral, is going to be these here. And they are fairly simple. So you're going to start out by drawing a line and then going in a very different direction and then again in a very different direction. Um, like that. And then going on the other side of it and adding in that line, adding in uh, another line like that, and um, going around, back up with that line, and splitting off again, and going like that. So you're kind of making a couple of Ys that like converge into other ones. And I'm going to be adding in another one beside it. So similar process of doing a line, going in a different direction, and then another direction. And you can actually kind of do this on both sides, like that. And following those lines, uh, again, like that. So we're going to be adding in this yellow coral at the back here, um, which is kind of really dark. Um, but adding in like a very rounded um, line here and adding a couple of those to one spot. My camera is very blurry for some reason today, so it's a little bit hard to see, but I'm kind of doing the same thing that we did here, where I'm just adding in um, some rounded kind of shapes, all converging in like one point in the middle here. So I'll wait for a minute and we will go over to the other side and add in some things. So the next coral on the side is fairly simple. We're gonna start by kind of going in like a roundish shape here, like this. And you want to do this fairly lightly because we will be going over it again, and adding in another rounded shape. They kind of don't have to be like perfect circles or anything, but just making sure that they're kind of a little like lumpy looking at the top and but they're staying sort of rounded here. And you kind of want them to go to like one spot near the ground like that. Kind of looks like a little heart. So the next step for this is adding in a um a wobbly line.
It's hard. Hide.
It's hard?
Hide. We didn't see. Hide.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, the heart.
Not
Um,
hard. Hide. Hide.
oh,
Lekashin.
oh, okay.
We don't see.
You can't see the side of it?
Yeah, I can't see. Yes, because your
Oh,
side.
because
So
okay. Let's try
yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
here.
it's okay.
Let's
Little bit, little bit, little bit. Not
oh, a little
no,
more.
no, not yet. Yes, this one good.
Okay.
Good job. Excellent. It's
All right. I
good
think
job. Thank you.
uh yeah. Sorry, this might take a second.
Thank you for that.
Technical difficulties. My dad is also a painter and he used this lighting thing that I put my camera on this weekend and had a little bit of trouble putting it back. Oh dear. Okay. Um, sorry about this.
Thank you.
It is a little bit of a frustrating setup. Is that better?
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, now it's all crooked. Shoot. Um, sorry about this. There. We're a little crooked, but that's better. There, right? Oh,
Good job.
that's better?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
Good job. Good job. Thank you.
All right, we'll keep going then. So going around these shapes, with a wavy line. Yeah. And similar to what we did here, just adding in that kind of bumpy ground to show that it's like sand near the base of these. All right. The next step is going to be adding in um, a lot of like circles like this. They can kind of be any shape, but just making sure that they're not touching. So adding those all in like that. And yeah. So you want to do this to all three of these here. So today's painting was actually inspired by my dad's painting. Um, like I was saying, he painted all weekend and he always paints fish. Um, Fish and sharks and coral reefs. So yeah, I'll see if I can find one of his pieces to show you at the end, but this is um, something that my dad loves to paint. Which, yeah. So we've got one more piece of coral to add in, and then we'll start putting in some fish. All right, this last piece of coral is fairly similar here. We're starting off with a circle or an oval, however big or small you'd like it to be. So putting in a rough circle here, and then we're adding in some more squiggly lines. So going like that, and we're going to do a similar thing as we did for the clam's mouth here, following that line um, all the way around it to make it look like a thicker line, like that. And yeah, you kind of want to fill up the space of the whole circle here, adding in those squiggly lines like that. Yeah, they can kind of look like anything. They don't have to be perfect for sure. Yeah. I like painting like coral and stuff because most of it is just squiggly lines. It's yeah, it's very um like simple for all of it to just be very similar, right? And they all look so different despite it. So then I'm going to go around the edge of our circle here and just darkening up the lines where no squiggly lines are. So just darkening those up quite a bit. And then we will get started on some fish, and we're gonna draw in some starfish first, actually. Yeah. So starfish are fairly easy to do. We'll start by putting one on in the sand here, and you just want to draw in a star. They definitely don't have to look perfect. Um, you could also add them in by doing this shape and then going around the outside like that. Um, but just adding in some starfish. I'm going to put some on the rocks here too. I'm doing the same process. Yeah. So you can add however many you would like. They're very easy. And yeah. Next, we're going to be adding in some barnacles on the rocks, which are some oval shapes with some smaller oval shapes inside. And they like to cluster together. So adding in a couple of different sizes, but have them all so their circles are like touching in some way because they all like to, um, they grow in like all together. So you want to have them all right nearby. Yeah, so adding those in, you can make them smaller or bigger or Like these ones on this side are going to be pretty small. Like that. So next we're going to be drawing in a little crab, which is they're very like small. So I'm going to show you a little bit bigger on this paper here that I have. So I start with like an oval shape like this. I add in the eyes like that, and then the claws are very like simple. So I just do them like that. And on crabs, one claw is always bigger than the other one. So you can make one of them smaller. And then I add in their 3 legs, which are just lines. So that's how I do a crab. And I'm going to do one pretty like smaller here. I just wanted to make it big so you guys could see what I was doing, as my camera's a little blurry. So I'm going to do an oval and then the eyes, the arms, and the legs. Just like that. So the next sea creature we're going to be adding in is an octopus, and I'll do the same. I'll show you a little bit bigger how I draw them, and then we'll add it to our painting. So I always start with a circle and then adding in a circle like that and a bump coming from one side like that. So these are our eyes here. You won't be able to see this far one as much, but this is our front one here. And then adding in a little swoosh like that out the back of the circle. And this is where you add in some tentacles. So I put 5 in there, like that. So they're kind of really just like pointy triangles like that that I've connected together. And they definitely don't have to be perfect. And then I go over the circle that we started with. And sometimes I'll color in the eye. Like that. So there's our little octopus. So I'm going to be drawing that in just here. So once again, we start with a circle and then our oval and the curve for the eyes, and then our little swoosh out to our tentacles. And that one only has 4. You can also add them in kind of in the back, like that one. And then I go over the circle and color in the eye. I'm actually going to make the head of this a little bit flatter because it's very, very round. Yeah. So the next fish are these yellow ones here, and I'll go over them in a second. Nice and big again. So, for these next fish, we're actually starting off with a rounded triangle. And then it's very simple. These next steps are kind of just adding in, oh, my lead broke again. Adding in a top fin that's just like a line and then straight down and connecting it to the body. Very similar to an octopus tentacle here, just a swoosh like that. And then adding in the tail just like that. And adding in an eye. So that's our next fish. And yeah, we're gonna put two of them in just right over here, above the heart-shaped coral. So once again, doing a rounded triangle, adding in that top fin and the bottom fin and the back fin. Just like that. And I'll go over it again here. So rounded triangle, our top fin, the bottom fin, and the back fin. And of course, the eye, which you cannot see. That's a little better. So because I don't want to run out of our time here, we'll go over some things really, really quick. So I'll show you how to do these jellyfish, and these fish are very simple, and then we'll go over the turtle. The turtle's not very complicated either, but yeah, we'll go over them in that kind of order here. So I'll show you again on my bigger sheet of paper how I do the jellyfish. So I start with like a half circle here, and then add in a squiggly bottom to it, like that. and then adding in some squiggly lines that make the middle part of it, and adding in a couple more throughout that. Oh, excuse me. And then adding in our my pencil keeps breaking. Adding in our tentacles like this. So adding in a couple, and that's our jellyfish. So I'm gonna put two of those in as well, up in this corner here. So I'll go over them again. A half circle, a squiggly bottom, and then the center of the jellyfish, and our tentacles. Like that. I think we're actually going to jump to the turtle now, as I want to have enough time so we can paint it. So we'll just add in our turtle here, which is, like I said, fairly simple-ish. So we're going to start off with a big oval, like that. You want it to be a little bit flat, like this. And putting a line, not really through the middle, but a little bit lower down than the middle, like that. So that'll separate the top of the shell and the bottom of the shell. So the next step is to add in the turtle's head, which is another oval here, connected by some lines that are its neck, and then adding in like a pointy-ish swoop, kind of, for the nose of it, and then adding in a circle for the eye. And you can darken up the lines of your oval as well, and erase this inside part here, like that. Yeah. So the next step here is the legs, and the way I do them is going in with a curved line here, like that, and then doing a larger bump and a smaller bump, like that. That arm is a little bit small though, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Like that. And you can add in one behind by just doing a little line like that. And it is the same for the back line. So a rounded line, and then a larger bump and a smaller bump. And erasing that line on the inside of it. Yeah. And this one I have a little bit more of the back leg showing, so you can add that in like that. And the tail, which is very similar to the octopus legs, just adding in a swoop. So now the shell of the turtle, we're going to add in a little bit of like a rim to our turtle shell here. So similar to what we did on this coral here, following the same line and just tracing it like that. So we're just making it a little bit of a thicker line. Like that. And you can darken the top line of our shell here. And this bottom one as well. And we're going to add in the texture on the turtle shell, and then we are done with the pencil, finally. Yeah. So the detail on the turtle shell is fairly simple. I kind of start with a half of a octagon, I think. Um, and adding in lines that go like that. And you can kind of improvise these a little bit. But this is the way that I do them. It's probably not accurate, but it's fun, so. And the final step for all the pencil here is just kind of darkening up any of the um lighter lines. So the lines here, I'm going to darken up, and some of the lines on the rocks, and then that is all of our pencil done. Next is the fun part where you kind of just get to color it in. So while I'm doing this, I'm pressing down on my pencil quite hard. And just going over any lines that need a little bit of like darkening them up or defining them a little bit more. The other thing you can do is if you have lines like this that are going through the rock here, you can erase them. Yeah. And then I'll wait for a minute and we will start with our watercolor. Today was a little bit more of a pencil heavy day. But this is my favorite way to use watercolor because it's more cartoony and most of my art is pretty cartoony. So, for the painting part of this, it's fairly straightforward. So for the big parts that have watercolor techniques, we'll spend a little bit more time on them. But really it is just coloring it in. So as you can see, our background water here, we're gonna go over because it's fairly complicated. It seems like it, but it's pretty simple. And then I'll go over how I did these rocks and the ground here a little bit, but it's pretty much just now your own coloring book that you've made. Um, yeah, so we'll start with the water in the background here, and I will show you how I did it. Um, so I'm using a flat brush here. It is a 12. So it's fairly big. It's a flat brush that I always use. And getting it pretty saturated with water and putting a very small amount of blue paint on your brush. So you can see there's barely any blue paint on here. And we're just going to start right at the edges of our base here. And you can kind of paint over mostly everything. So as you can see, I've gone over the kelp here, and I'm going to paint over this coral as well. And you can paint over the fish. Because we have our pencil done, you get to keep a lot of the like planning we've had. So you can kind of just cover most of our paper, but I am leaving the rocks and the ground here white. Um, and the way I'm filling in this water here is just using very little pigment and a lot of water. Um, yeah. And I am trying to keep any darker pigments towards the base of our ocean here as the water gets darker as it gets deeper. So you can see when I'm adding in color, I'm adding it towards the bottom of our painting rather than the top of it, as if we keep the pigment saturated towards the bottom, then it'll be easier to keep the top of our painting lighter. So while this blue is still wet, I'm actually going to take um, a little bit of some green. It's a very blue green here. This is the color I'm using. Um, it's like bluish green, and I'm just adding in little bits of it. You do want to blend this out a bit, but just to add some variation in the watercolor. Well, water color and watercolor, but you can actually get watercolors that do this automatically. They kind of have like two colors inside the paints themselves. They are very cool. Um, I have a couple of them and I love to play around with them because like they change colors as they're drying. It's pretty cool. So I'm adding in green and I'm also going to add in a little bit of purple in some spots in a second here. And this is the purple that I'm using and just adding in the smallest amount of it, just like the green. So you can't like really tell it's there, but it just adds a little bit of variation in our watercolors. And that just helps it look a little bit more realistic. All right, the next step here is why we actually kept our watercolors so light while we were painting the first layer of this, because we're going to take just a little bit more blue than we had on our brush before. And you're actually going to add in some lines like this. And we're actually going to be adding these in to leave spots of it lighter. So adding in one line on this side and then another one like this. So you can see there's a little bit of a lighter piece in between these two lines, and we're going to be leaving that blank. So adding in some more darker color on that side, and then leaving another spot kind of blank, and then adding a little bit more. So you want this to be fairly subtle, and then blending it out from these lines towards the bottom. And this is just kind of adding in some lighting. You can also add in some lines within the little light pieces that we added and stuff. And then just blending out this color. So it's not changing a whole lot, but it's just adding in some fun lighting. So in a minute here, we'll paint in some rocks. And then it's kind of free reign of picking colors where you'd like to put them. Um, yeah, like I've said, it's my favorite way to paint watercolor. Um, but I wanted to show you this for our last week, as it's something you can kind of do um, on your own as long as you know what you want to paint, right? Um, so this is how I've painted landscapes and flowers. I've painted people like this as well. Um, yeah, so it's all up to whatever pencil you add to your painting, and then just coloring it in as you go along. So next we're painting in our rocks here, and I'm going to be using um, uh, more of a bluish gray. This is the color. and just painting in the shape. So you can kind of go over the barnacles, but try not to go over too much of the kelp, as this is kind of a darker color. You can switch to a smaller brush for this part as well, just to go around the leaves here. So I'm going to be using this color for all of my rocks. If you want to do like variation between them, you can use other grays, or you can use more gray pigment on your brush and it'll be darker. So the way I'm painting these in with my flat brush is I'm actually holding it like vertical like this, right? So I'm only using like the small tip of my brush rather than the whole of it, and that's how I'm able to get the control I'm getting with such a big brush. And then I can paint in the larger areas as well without having to use two brushes. Being able to use a flat brush on the edge like this is a really useful skill to have. If you've noticed throughout all of our watercolor classes, I've kind of stuck to three brushes mainly. This flat brush, around a bit of a bigger round brush, and a smaller round brush. And um, the reason I kind of stick to those three is because they kind of cover everything within the basic sizes of brushes that you need. So you can cover big areas, smaller areas, and adding in a lot of different shapes depending on what brush you're using. So that's kind of why I only use three brushes, because it's a lot simpler. But now we are going to switch to a round brush. This is a 10. Yeah. And to get these cool textures on my rocks here, I wait for them to dry a little bit, and then I go in with a lot of pigment on my brush with the same gray, and I just add in splotches. And I keep them more concentrated to the base, so they'll look like texture and shadow at the same time. But you want to make sure your rocks are mostly dry before putting this on, as if it's not completely, or if it's not mostly dry, it will just kind of blend in. Like it'll bleed into the rest of the gray. Yeah, like that. So I'm going to do the same on the other side of our rocks here. And just adding in some splotchier texture like that. So that's how I do the rocks. So we are coming up on the end of our time here pretty soon. So I will keep going and showing you how I paint things in, but we might run out of time a little bit. Um, but this is definitely the simplest painting that we've, well, it's not the, like, it's very complex, but it's the simplest techniques of painting because it really is just painting in what we've done with the pencil, which is kind of nice. Um, yeah, so I'll keep going with coloring some things in. I'll show you how I do the base of our ground here a little bit, really quick. So for the sand, I use this brown color here, and I'm actually going to start in this darker kind of area here, um, in the like trench area. Um, so I paint over all of this area here, and I take another brown. I'm going to be using this brown here. It's kind of the terracotta-ish brown that we've been using for when we were painting plants and stuff. And I'm just going to go around the base of this while it's still kind of wet, so it'll spread out. And if it doesn't spread out that much, just take a little bit of water on your brush and blend just the kind of edges of it like that. So next week, we are going to be switching to oil pastels. And next week will kind of be a little bit of an introduction to the material Um, so I'll go over how I use them and what techniques we'll be doing throughout our weeks. But I wanted to ask you all if you had materials that you would like to try out next after oil pastels. So we're going to do that for 4 weeks, and then do you have any preferences, any ideas of what you would like to try out? Um, Continuing with the painting here, I'm going to use the same lighter brown color and paint in all of our sandy area here and going around our little sea creatures that we've done. So you do want to keep this part a little bit lighter, but if it's darker in spots, then it's kind of better because it looks more sandy, because sand has a lot of like color differences. So if it's kind of patchy, um, then it's okay. Yeah. So if you have darker spots like this and lighter spots like that, it's totally fine. Um, yeah. Sorry about us running out of time here. Um, it took me quite a bit less time to paint my example. I guess it's smaller paper, so that is my bad. So next up here is the fun part. Picking any colors you would like for any of the coral. I can show you the colors that I used and I'll paint as fast as I possibly can. Um, oh, that's really nice. I like it.
Thank you.
Wow. I like your like trench area. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the kelp, I used this green color here. Um, and yeah, just painting them in. Yeah. So you can use different greens as well. Like this is a little bit more muted green. So as you can kind of see, I'm not using really any sort of like fancy techniques for painting in all of this because we did all the texture and the outlines in pencil. So you can kind of paint in any sort of color or anything, and you don't have to always add in a whole lot of extra shading and things because we have done all the line work in pencil, right? Um, so like for this coral here, I'm going to use a little bit of like a turquoisey color here, which you can get just by mixing some green and some blue, or if you have it on your palette. And then just painting in over top of our lines here. And because we've done that pencil, you don't need to add in a lot of variation or anything. Like so. Um, for this anemone at the top, I'm going to be using some orange. Um, so this is the color I'm using. And yeah, just painting in on top of our pencil. For this little one here, I'm going to be using some yellow. Um, kind of like a goldenish yellow, this color. And I'm actually going to switch to a smaller brush. This is a 2 brush. Same round brush, but just a little bit smaller so we can get some more detail done in here. I'll wait for a sec for you guys to catch up a little bit. But as long as it's okay with you guys, we can stick around for a little bit and finish painting in these colors together. All right. For this coral here, I'm going to be painting it red. You can kind of use any red you would like. So this is the red that I'm using. I think it's called permanent red is what the paint is called. And it is permanent. It is very, very bright. I also use this color for the crab, so while I still have it on my brush, I'm going to paint in the crab as well. I think I even used it for one of these corals, so we might just keep going with it. Um, so yeah, when you're painting something like this, kind of painting everything that's the same color at the same time really helps. So if you keep it on your brush and just do all the pieces together, then you're not having to switch your brush color all the time. So the next color I'm going to be using is the terracotta color, and I'll just wait a second and then we'll start doing that, but we're gonna paint in the starfish and another one of these coral pieces. So this is the orange color I'll be using next. It's like a reddish brown terracotta color. We've used it a bunch throughout the past lessons, and this is going to be our starfish. And I'm going to paint in, like I said, another one of these coral pieces here. And because we painted over these with our blue, you can see we don't have to paint in all the small dots of blue with the water behind it. Because we put it on top, we don't have to paint in all of the tiny little spots anymore, which is nice. So next week, like I said, we're switching to oil pastels, and we're going to be drawing some more flowers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Surface leaves.
So the reason I want to do flowers is because we can kind of play around with some colors and learn some of the techniques that we're going to be using for the other 3 classes. And yeah.
Oh,
So the next color we're going to be using is either like a pinky color or a purpley color. Um, so for pink, you can kind of use like very little red as a pink. You can also like what I have here, I have a pink mix already in my palette. Um, or you can use some purple just really lightly, and this is going to be our octopus and our clam here that we're painting in. So, yeah. So for the clam, I'm leaving the like mouth of it white, but I'm painting the rest in with purple. And while we have the purple out, we're gonna paint in our final piece of coral here. like that. Oh, while we have the purple out, actually, we are going to do the jellyfish as well. I completely forgot about those. So for jellyfish, you paint the top of it and kind of this bottom part here. Like that.
No problem. No. It's a first. Hello, just a minute.
All right. So for these fish, the tiny ones here, and this coral piece, we're going to be using yellow. But I'm going to mix it a little bit with some orange. So I'm taking this yellow here, and I'm going to add in a little bit of orange. So this is kind of going to be the color that I'm using. So I'm going to paint in this coral here. And our little fish up here. Well, so our last step here is the turtle. So I'll wait a second and then we'll paint in the turtle.
That's definitely good. So our turtle here is going to be fairly simple. I'm going to start with the color of our sand, and I'm going to paint in this as his like lower part of his shell, including this rim color here, or the rim part of his shell here. So we're painting in that part. And then we're going to paint in the top of his shell with this darker brown. And yeah, just painting in that top part. And of course, the final step is to use green for its head and its feet. and I'm going to be using this yellowish green here. And just painting that in. And there is the end of our painting. I'm sorry again for going over time. Oh, the eye of the turtle. I just used the same gray as the rocks, but I'm gonna wait for my turtle to dry a little bit. Um, yeah, sorry. Um, that took longer than I thought it would. But I hope you all had fun with watercolor in general and with this painting. Um, yeah.